What's up guys, my name is ESO and welcome to the channel. In this video I'm going to be guiding you through how to build the Dwemer Centurion. It's a bit like a tank warrior setup. I've aimed this build at two kinds of people. Firstly, for people who have played this game before, this build offers a unique playstyle, and it's also aimed at those of you who are new to the game. I've gone through all the perks, what race to pick, what armour to use, and how to use the build in general. And I've also gone through how to distribute your stats. Everything you need for the build can be found in the description with guides on where to get it. I've tried to make it as thorough as possible. You can use this build on PC and any console. There are no mods included. You can also pair this build up with my werewolf build I made a while ago. Then you can get the best damage per second in the game paired with a very survivable character, which I'll show you how to make now. So my aim with this build was to make an interesting character with a unique playstyle that makes use of mechanics that a lot of people overlook. But more importantly, I wanted to make something that people could play without needing the smithing skill or the enchanting skill. But if you want to use them, I will talk about crafting skills. It will just be your choice whether or not you want to use them or not. So in other words, you can start this build and never craft a single thing. It's up to you. It also has a choice if you want to use spells or not. This build is very flexible and I want you to play the game your way. I'm just going to give you the structure and my suggestions, and then you can make it your own character. Put your own twist on it. I hope you guys like the concept I'm going for here. As I said, all the armor, spells, shouts and weapons I talk about in this video, I've already made guides on how to get them in the description. I've put them in order of what's best to do first. So if you start a new character, start at the top of the list for each category and work your way down, because they're positioned in order of difficulty. Before we talk about the build, I'm going to tell you a bit about the backstory theme behind it. You can skip this section if it does not interest you, or you just don't like roleplaying. In the first era, during the Ethereum Wars, the Dwemer discovered a new material in Falzadumdin. They called it Ethereum. It was crystal-like in appearance. It was used to create unique magical artifacts. 1,000 years later, after the War of Mosring, Snow Elves came to the Dwemer, seeking refuge. You, one of the few surviving Snow Elves, found yourself tricked into slavery. You became part of a Dwemer experiment that aimed to cross the boundaries of flesh and metal. The experiment was successful, but you lost whatever you were. You were merely now a tool for the Dwemer to use to their own ends. Half machine and half human, but with no humanity. It's thousands of years later now, and Skyrim is on the brink of civil war. You have lived a timeless life, and are ancient beyond measure. However, you do suffer from the limits of a human. You can become tiresome and even die. But on the other hand, you can think and learn. Though one purpose calls you forth more than anything, to save the Dwemer technology from extinction. To roleplay this character, you should seek out the Dwemer artifacts and hoard them in your home. I suggest using the house in Markov, but that's really up to you. All the scrap metal you find can be melted down into Dwemer ingots that you can use to craft weapons to sell for gold. You do not really care for the fate of others, and only seek to advance yourself through material gain. The aim of this build is control and sustain damage while being survivable. I'm going to kick off by talking about the equipment, and then I'll explain how you use everything together as I go. Let's start off with the shield, the most important part of any tank build. You have a choice of two, depending on what situation you're in. Firstly, the Spellbreaker Shield, a unique Dwemer artifact. This shield is your go-to defensive weapon when you have to fight mages or dragons. The shield has a defense of 38, which is more than a Daedric shield, making it the best shield in the game. But it also has a unique ability. When you block, it makes a ward that blocks spells, so you can defend yourself from magical attacks. This is especially useful versus dragons. As you can see, you can simply block the flame attacks, and it can't do anything to me from a distance. The ward breaks after it absorbs 50 points of damage, but you just have to block again, it takes like a second, and then the ward reappears. As you can see, it's really easy to use and very effective. Just remember to reset your ward after blocking a spell, so just stop blocking and then block again. As you're a Dwemer machine, you have to fill the part, right? Well, with the shield charge perk you can get in the block skill tree, you can simply block a few spells with Spellbreaker and then charge at the enemy mage, with your ward defenses still up, and just bowl them over. This is a great counter attack. In fact, it's a great counter attack to anything. You will literally start to love this build just because of this one ability. You can send people flying across the room, it's great fun. And people can't block when they're on the floor, so it makes them very easy targets for you to kill. The second shield I want to talk about, and it's probably one of the most interesting ones, is the Ethereal Shield, and this is what most of this build is based around. This is actually one of my favourite shields in the game. It has an armour of 26, which I'll tell you how to improve later. But the armour is not really important. We want this shield for its unique effect. It has a unique ability where if you shield bash someone, they will become ethereal for 15 seconds. This basically means they turn into a ghost, so you can't attack them and they can't attack you. In fact, they just run away. So why is this useful, you ask? Well, let me tell you. Firstly, let's say you're surrounded by 3 enemies. Just shield bash 2 of them and you can kill the last one in a 1 versus 1 fight. You have the whole 15 seconds until the others return to normal, and then you can just shield bash the next one and so on. You get the idea. But by doing this, you will never be outnumbered. You can always kill people 1v1, or even, for example, if you're fighting a boss and you need to heal up, you can use the shield bash and then heal yourself and continue to fight. It has so many uses. What I like to do with this build is shield bash people, and then, because they flee from you, I pull out my next item on the list, the Enhanced Dwarven Crossbow. Now you don't have to use a ranged weapon if you don't want to. Like I said earlier, I'm just trying to show you that you can play Skyrim any way you want, and the choice is up to you. This build is perfectly viable without range, I just think it adds a new element of fun to the build. You can also use a normal crossbow or even a bow, but if you've seen my crossbow versus bow video, you will know that crossbows are slightly better. Also, I feel like the Enhanced Dwarven Crossbow really fits the theme of the build. It does 22 damage and ignores 50% of the target's armour. You can even get special magical bolts that a lot of people don't know about. The fire ones can be great against vampires, for example. So you've made the enemy run away for 15 seconds with the Ethereal Shield Bash. You whip out your crossbow and wait until the ghost effect stops. Now you have some distance, so you can take some pot shots with your crossbow at them. If you're a real sneaky player, you can even go into sneak mode for some extra damage. Also, the crossbow has a great knockback that you can use if people get too close. So far, I'm guessing you can already see that there are many ways to play this build, and it's a really fun way to play a tank. But wait, I'm far from done. Now just a quick tip, if you want to be really overpowered, check out my guide on how to get unlimited stamina. It allows you to shield bash and never run out of stamina. It's game breaking, but it's there if you want to use it. Anyway, next up we have your weapon of choice. This part really depends on you. If you want to fit the theme of the build, you can go for a Dwemer weapon such as a sword that does 10 damage or a mace that does 12. You can get one very early on in the game. In fact, they're the best weapon you can get to start off with. You might also like to enchant your sword though with some fire damage. This does the most damage over time, and as we're a tank, we have plenty of time to let the enemies burn to death. If you get the extra effect perk from the enchanting tree, you can enchant your weapon with both a fire effect and either an absorb stamina or health effect. It's up to you, but both are very useful. Another good option if you don't want to use the enchanting skill at all is to use the sword Dawnbreaker. This sword does 12 damage and will burn your enemies alive for 10 to 15 points of damage a second, and will cause undead enemies to explode when you kill them. I think it fits the theme of the Dwemer build pretty well, as they were known for their hot furnaces after all. If you don't really care about fitting the theme and just want damage, you can also use a Daedric sword if you like. It does 14 damage. All these weapons can be improved, so don't worry. You have a choice of how you heal yourself. You can either use the restoration skill, which makes the game much easier. You simply wield your shield in one hand and defend yourself while healing with the other. The Guardian Circle is actually quite a useful spell as well. You can sit in it and block and basically be invincible. Not to mention all the undead will just flee from you. Apart from that, healing spells are useful, but like I said, they do make the game pretty easy. I'll tell you where to find all the restoration spells you need in the description. Your other option is to heal using alchemy by making or even just buying health potions. You're going to have an abundance of gold that you'll be getting from all the dungeons you'll be going through. You can just fast travel to all the alchemist shops in each city and buy all the health potions. This is what I do personally. So next up, it gets interesting again. For armor, we'll be wearing the Visage of Mizund, a unique dwarven helmet. It gives you 24 armor, which is better than a Daedric helm. It also gives you 60 points of stamina, which is ideal for you to keep your block and power attacks up. But my favourite part is that it gives you a unique skill called Breath of Nutuak. I don't know how you pronounce that, but it looks awesome. It blasts the enemy with steam that does 15 points of damage a second. Now the great thing about this is that you don't need to use magicka to use it, so you can save all your magicka for any healing that needs to be done. In this instance, I'm blocking an attack while using restoration to heal myself between attacks, and I don't even need to get a weapon out to deal damage. I can just use the helmet's special power. So you're always dealing sustained damage, even when healing. I also think it goes great with the crossbow. Like if I hit somebody and they're not quite dead yet, I can just finish them off with the steam instead of wasting another bolt. I really think this helmet adds flexibility to the build. For the rest of the armour, we're going to be using full Dwarven. You can actually get a full set of Dwarven armour without smithing. I'll leave a guide on where to find that in the description. I suggest doing it at the start of the game, straight away. But if you like, you can reinforce your armour with the smithing skill. Now just to compare, Daedric armour has a total of 81, but Dwemer armour, with this unique helmet, has a total of 84. And you also get the complete set bonus for wearing full Dwemer armour. A lot of people don't realise that there is an armour cap of 567. This means that once you get over 567 armour, like say if you have 1000 armour, it still only counts as having 567 armour. So there is no point in having more than that amount. So right now, with our armour and assuming you're using the ethereal shield, we have a total armour of 110. Because we have the full set bonus, we have 148 armour in total, but that's not including the heavy armour skill, which it scales with. So for example, if you have level 30 heavy armour, then you'll have even more armour because it scales with it. Also, if you invest perks in that tree, so if you have 5 points in the Juggernaut perk, you will have another 20% on top of that armour. So by using crafting, we can very easily get to the armour cap of 567. You can use a combination of rings and enchanting potions to fortify your smithing to help you reach the max armor cap. The max armor cap gives you 80% damage reduction. You don't need to do that though. Because of how this build works, you can very easily play without it. I'm just telling you about the crafting because it's an option that you can use if you like to. If you really want to be a badass, you can enchant your armor too. With the extra effect perk, you can effectively have 2 effects on one piece of armor. How you enchant your armour depends on you. If for example you use the sword over the bow, then enchant your braces with Fortify one-handed by 40%, and so on. If you're not sure, just enchant all your armour with Fortify health. You can never go wrong when it comes to being harder to kill. As for jewellery, I recommend the Golder's Amulet, which boosts your health, stamina and magicka by 30 points each. You will likely randomly find an enchanted ring while playing the game, or you can just enchant your own with the most beneficial enchantment that's useful to you. But wait, there are more tactics! I haven't even talked about powers or shouts yet. So let's start off with shouts. Considering you're breathing steam, it gets really hot inside your helmet. You're cooking up a giant breath of fire from the furnace within you. You can use the fire breath shout to release the energy upon your foes. It does a total damage of 90 and sets the enemy on fire for further damage. You can find all the word locations for all these shouts in the description by the way. The next shout, which is very useful, is the Become Ethereal shout. If you ever find yourself overwhelmed, you use your magic shield to become ethereal and turn yourself into a ghost-like figure. While in this form, you can flee the scene and nobody can hurt you. You can also use this ability to fall from great heights without taking damage, or even to simply avoid a dragon attack. It's basically your "oh crap" button, I need to get out of here. For the choice of ritual stone, I suggest starting with the warrior stone, located just here on the map. This will basically allow you to train your skills faster, and if you want more help on leveling, I will leave my level 1 to 100 guides in the description. For those of you not using spells, I highly suggest the Atronach Stone, which gives you 50 magicka and grants 50% spell absorption. However, it causes magicka regeneration to decrease by 50%. As you're not actually using magicka, it doesn't matter, but if you have 50% spell absorption, you basically take half damage from all magical attacks in the game. This is so strong, and even if you're using magicka, a 50% regeneration penalty is not that bad, so I suggest you try it out at least. The Lady Stone is also a good choice. It gives you 25% faster health and stamina regeneration. It's located here on the map. That said though, the Lord Stone is also a good choice, which gives you 50 points of damage resistance, which is basically like another 50 points towards the armor cap, and also 25% magic resistance. The choice is up to you, and sometimes it changes with the situation, but I myself find the Atronach Stone to be the most beneficial, especially versus dragons. Let's talk about the followers next. The ultimate aim is to have the Dwemosphere follower. This thing is pretty cool, as you can see. If you put your weapon away, it will go into a ball. And when you draw your weapon, peekaboo, it comes out again. You can also use the Dwemer Spider, though the Saphir is better. I'll leave a guide on how to get them in the description. If you accidentally kill them, or they die at any time, you can just go back to the place you found them and get another one. They only count as pets, so you can in fact have another human follower if you wish. I'm not going to, but if you do, I'd suggest for example using Lydia and then giving her full Dwemer armor and whatnot. I'll leave that up to you though. Next up we have powers. Firstly we have the Sunflare power. When you use this, you will explode in fire, burning everything around you for 100 damage each. If you combine it with the Fire Breath Shout, you can literally kill a small army in a fiery inferno. Next we have the Black Book power called Secret of Protection. Being half machine, you can draw deep within yourself to grant a 50% resistance to all damage for 30 seconds. This is very useful in certain situations, but can only be used once a day. Alternatively, you can use the Dragonborn Flame. This is another Black Book power. When you use the Fire Breath Shout and kill somebody with it, a fireworm will emerge from their corpse and fight for you for 30 seconds. Now I'm going to talk quickly about your race. There are a few options and to be honest, it's not very important, so if you want to pick a certain race, just go for it. I will suggest a few though. Bretons have a natural magic resistance that gives them a 25% resistance to magic. They can also use a unique ability called Dragon Skin that allows them to absorb 50% of magicka from all incoming spells for 60 seconds, but it can only be used once a day. The Nord is also a good choice, giving you a natural 50% resistance to frost. It's realistic because you're so hot you almost ignore frost. Also, everything in Skyrim does frost damage, so it's really useful. And they also have a unique ability called Warcry that they can use once a day. It makes enemies flee for 30 seconds, so they're a solid choice too. The race I am using is the Dummer, the Dark Elf race. I feel it really fits the build. They have a 50% resistance to fire, and they have a unique ability called Ancestor's Wrath, where once per day for 60 seconds, opponents that get too close to you take 8 points of fire damage per second. I just like it because it means that if I use the Fire Breath Shout, the Sunflare power, and this power at the same time, everything dies. It's great. So now I'm going to go over perks. This will depend on your playstyle, so it's up to you what perks you get first. I'm just going to tell you the most important perks to get in each skill tree, but eventually you'll probably have pretty much all of them. So let's start with heavy armor. To be honest, all the perks here are really good. Get all the points in Juggernaut. Your armor defense is really important to us, more important than being able to block more damage. The best side of this skill tree to max is the right side first. This side is much more important, so you can get the Reflect Blows perk, and then you're laughing at your enemies. Next up we have the one-handed skill. It's pretty self-explanatory. Once again, more damage is key, so get 5 points in the Armsman perk. The fighting stance is also a good perk, but you can afford to hold off on the others until you feel like getting them. Block skill. You can max out the shield wall later. It's more important to get the other perks like deflect arrows and power bash, which is useful too. Quick reflexes slows down time when you block an attack. It can help, but it's not really needed, so you can just ignore it. I recommend going up the right side of the tree after you get deflect arrows. You can get elemental damage protection, but you will have spellbreaker, so it's not really needed. I recommend getting shield charge though, because that is really fun. You will literally love the shield build for it. Next up we have the bow skill. Of course you don't have to use it, it's up to you. Max out overdraw for the damage. Eagle's Eye allows you to zoom in, and it's definitely worth getting, it's very useful. Though since you're close up most of the time, it doesn't really matter. I guess it's up to you. Steady hand can be quite useful. I personally use it. Power shot staggers your target 50% of the time. This is a great perk, so make sure you get this. Quick shot is also good, as we will be swapping out our bow and shield a lot of the time. In fact, make sure you hotkey it. And bullseye, which gives you a chance to paralyze the enemy, is obviously very useful too. Restoration. If you decide to use it, it's pretty self-explanatory. You unlock better spells as you level up, and then you can buy them from court mages, and then you can just get the appropriate perk to reduce the magicka cost of said spell. That, and make sure you get the regeneration perk. It makes your restoration spells heal even more. That's very important. The avoid death perk also makes the game even easier if you're interested. Lastly, if you decide to use the crafting trees, let's start with the smithing tree. If you want to improve your Dwemer armor to the armor cap, you only need to get one perk, the Dwemer smithing. That's it. For enchanting, max out Insightful Enchanter and then get the points in Fire Argument. This will boost your fire enchantment's damage. It actually also boosts the damage of Dawnbreaker, because obviously it does fire damage. And then for the rest, go up the right side of the tree to get the extra effect perk. Now last but not least, we have your stats. This can vary completely on your playstyle. At the start of the game, I would put more points into stamina. At the end of the day, if you can't attack or block, you will die. So put points into both health and stamina until you have around 180 stamina and health. And then start putting points into health for every 1 point of stamina until you have between 260 to 300 stamina. You don't really need any more at all. You can even have less than that. If you've decided to use restoration to heal, I suggest you put half the amount of points into magicka as you do stamina. So in a ratio 0.5 magicka for every 2 health for every 1 stamina. Now please remember that I am not you. If you need more stamina because you shield bash or power attack more often than me, then by all means put more in. Needing to heal more, then have more magicka. These are just the stats that I find work best for me. Guys, I put so much work into this build guide and I really hope that it's not too overwhelming for new players. And I hope that you older players will have some fun with it and maybe try something new out. I've got many other builds and I will leave a link to the playlist of those in the description for you guys to check out if you want some more ideas. Or I don't know, maybe you just like to listen to me throwing information at you until it blows your mind. Anyway, I truly hope you enjoyed this guide, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Skyrim guides, Easter eggs and builds. You can also like my Facebook page to stay up to date with what I'm working on. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next guide.